And so I've had a lot of clients over the years who are like, yeah, after I shampoo my hair, I have to wear a beanie half a day before it looks right. So now what they're figuring out is that they just don't shampoo their hair for a couple days. It starts to look better and better. Camera 1 rolls. Camera 2 rolls. Scene 1, take 1. Hello YouTube, I'm Andrew Does Hair. You can find my work on Instagram at Andrew Does Hair. I'd like to thank On Point Fresh for having me back here to talk about hair. This is pretty much the only thing I know about. I've been a hairdresser in Southern California for roughly 20 years now, and these days I'm splitting my time between Tustin, California and Nashville, Tennessee. If you happen to be near either of those places, I would love the opportunity to sit down and work with you personally. But until then, I've got a list of questions here that On Point Fresh has sent me about hair. Now mind you, I'm going to speak from my perspective as a working professional. I work 50 hours a week doing haircuts for all kinds of people, really. My clients are doctors and lawyers, real estate agents, but I also happen to cut a couple of athletes and actors and models and musicians. So maybe I don't have the coolest hair you've ever seen, but there is a chance that I might be the guy behind the coolest hair you've ever seen. So the first question sent here, what are the most popular or requested hairstyles you're getting right now? If you can break them down by age demographics, it would be great. I would say my clients who are 18 and 25, they're really going hard on this longer, flowier, messier hairstyle thing. What I'm seeing a ton of is natural textures. People really like wave, they really like curl. A lot of kids in this age group are getting perms these days. It's actually back. Perms are in, I'm sure you know if you're watching this. But I see a lot of people with straight hair who want it to bend more. And I'm seeing kind of a move away from tidier, fresher, crisper, tighter hairstyles. We get a lot of requests for like, everything comes from TikTok, but TikTok didn't invent it. It's just a reinvention of something that previously existed. And so if you were to watch the show Boy Meets World, that's a good example of where the trends in that age group are kind of, not that they're watching that show and picking it off of that show, but those are the kinds of hairstyles. Very 1990s, like middle part skater kid haircut. But then at the same time, they don't want it to look so pristine and combed into place. They really want it to look disheveled. There's a couple barbers I know who are really killing it at this look. Shout out to Dino the Barber on Instagram. He works out of LA. He kills this look. And also Trent Cuts on Instagram. These guys, if you go look at their posts, you can see what I'm talking about. It's very like disheveled and lived in, but with a very 1990s shape and style to it. And then I think this younger age group still has a very barbershop heavy mentality in that I'll get a lot of requests for like, I want the messy flow, but I want really tidy sideburns or a clean taper. And oftentimes actually the taper kind of goes against what they want their hair to do. And so we kind of have this decision to make. Do you want it tapered like you're used to doing, or do you want to go for the look? So yeah, in that younger age group, they still very much have the clean, tidy lines. Like they'll hide them into the otherwise messy haircut. What I'm finding from people who are a little bit older, I would say 25 to 35, a really big push toward lived-in hair. And what I mean by that is if you were to go look at the red carpet or any of these celebrities that we look up to for hair icons or whatever, all the Brad Pitts and those guys, you almost never see them with perfect, crispy haircuts. There's some level of, I don't even know if imperfection is the right word, but it's like, it's a very lived-in, natural finish. The idea is you get a haircut today that looks like you got a haircut last week. And that is a massive, massive request that I'm getting lately. The fun thing really for all age groups regarding trends right now is there's not any one thing that's popular. I'm getting things from very short, messy buzz cuts, kind of like what I have right now. It's funny because you go into some shops and you say, I want it short and messy. And they'll go, what do you mean short is messy? If you go look at celebrities with very short hair, like the buzz cuts and things in Hollywood, they have a very unkempt, grown in look to them, even while very, very short. Like you go look at the Ryan Reynolds haircuts and stuff, they're very disheveled, but very short. And I'm getting people in real life asking for that. You know, the last 10 years, if somebody wanted short hair, they wanted it short and clean. But now I'm getting very specific requests, like I want it short, but messy. So that's something that really all the age groups are kind of doing here and there, but mostly that kind of 25 to 35. And I think it's as a result of they just don't want to style their hair. They want to go like this and be done. I think across most age groups as well, looking like you styled your hair is kind of on the way out. I'll get into that more on the next question. People don't want to look like they tried, at least in my clientele. They don't want to look like they got the $100 haircut. And incidentally, that's kind of what a $100 haircut often can get you, is it doesn't look like you tried, but you accidentally happen to look good anyways. And that's it's a very narrow target to hit, to do something kind of disheveled and messy, but kind of tasteful at the same time. I'm getting a lot of mullets right now, like a lot of mullets. I literally just finished doing one right before I sat down to make this video. And what he requested, he's like, dude, I want this thing to look dirty. I want it to look nasty, but I want it to look cool at the same time. And so it's not as simple as just bash up the haircut and make it like bad. If you know what you're looking at, there's a lot of shape involved there to keep it still tasteful and tailored looking. But the overall finish, like, I mean, he literally told me, he's like, I want to take product in the morning and go like this. and then not think about it for a week. That has been a huge request. The unfinished kind of messy cuts, the really disheveled finishes, but still classically shaped in most cases. The mullet, I guess, maybe is kind of like a pseudo classic. I'm still getting a lot of the 80s businessman as far as like my 35+ year olds. Like they want to look like, and I mentioned this in the last video I did with On Point Fresh, but I'm still getting a lot of requests for like the American Psycho. That's not going anywhere. In fact, I think that's only going to get more popular. And another one that surprised me is long layered hair is becoming popular. And when I say layered, I mean like the hair on top doesn't hang down as far as the hair on the bottom. If all the hair hangs down to the same place, you don't have layers. You have a one length haircut, and it doesn't move because the hair on top weighs down everything else. And then the hair on the bottom pushes out the hair on top. And so if you're growing your hair out and you end up getting this kind of triangle shape, it's because you need your hair layered. And so what I'm getting a lot of requests for is guys who maybe started growing their hair out way back in COVID and maybe trimmed it once or twice along the way. And now they've got hair down to here that's all one length. And so it's pushing out, and all they've known is like, I don't know, just pull it down and cut the back. And now what they're saying is like, I want my hair to move and I want it to do stuff. Probably 5 times this week, I made that sort of transformation on clients to where they came in with very long one length hair and they left with layers. And so what these layers will do is like the hair on the top and the hair on the bottom, if you pull them out this way, they'll be the same length here. But when you pull them down, the hair on the bottom is going to hang much further than the hair on the top will. And so everything in between here flips out and moves. That's what layers are. And what I'm seeing my clients do with these long layered haircut is essentially you treat the front like you have just a regular medium length haircut. You'll slick it back, side part it, and let it be up and messy. And then in the back, you just have this like party happening back there. So that's actually been really ramping up in popularity recently. People for so many years were doing longer tops, shorter bottoms, and now it's actually going in the inverse, and we're seeing shorter tops with longer bottoms. Very 1980s, 1990s. Like if you watch Stranger Things, a lot of the hairstyles in there that when the show came out were kind of outlandish, they're like legit now. Like people really want like Stranger Things haircuts, like color popped on a jean jacket thing. If you were to go look at like the Hollywood hunks of like 1987 to 1997, that whole range right there, that's what's popular like across the board. You find like Benicio del Toro in 1994, that's a look. You find Brad Pitt in 1995, that's a look that's popular right now. Even actually Brad Pitt for a lot of years off and on, he would do a very like wet spike kind of look. Like his hair was messy, but it was very wet looking. I'm getting requests for that. Dudes are like, dude, I want like the LA Looks kind of spiky look, which takes me back to 7th grade, way back in 1997 when everybody did that with their hair. So that was a very long answer, but it's not a simple, straightforward thing to answer right now. Like there's not any one haircut that's popular. It's almost like people look at the haircuts that are becoming unpopular, and I'll get to that in 1 second, and they're like, I want anything but that, and it's Hail Mary time. People are really going out there with these ideas, but what they're not doing so much of is really crispy, tailored, tidy stuff. It's very messy, it's very organic, it's very loose. Question number 2, what hairstyles do you see going out of favor? Is the broccoli head hairstyle on its last leg? What I see people come in nearly repulsed by these days is they don't want comb lines, they don't want heavy pomades, they don't want anything that looks like they tried. Even the people who are spending $100 on a haircut and spending $50 on a really nice hair product, they're putting in the effort, but it's different now. Rather than daily putting every hair perfectly in place, like that's, I don't want to be that guy anymore. They want to put time into it less frequently, and the resulting look is just something a lot more haphazard and lived in. And so when I get a client who says they want a short haircut, I'll ask them, do you want to see clean, hard lines? Like, do you want to look like you got a haircut? Or do you want me to leave the lines kind of natural, like you didn't get a haircut? And for a long time, it was kind of 50-50. Some like the fresh look, but these days I almost never do lines on a haircut. Like almost nobody wants that. For a couple minutes there, maybe a few years ago, people were kind of throwing designs in their hair. I haven't seen a design from like anybody except for the people who specialize in that and only do that, but designs are like out. Another thing that's kind of out is, so the broccoli head thing, I have a really hard time commenting on that because I never had a lot of those clients here. I had maybe like 2 dudes who did that, but they were perming their hair to do so, and it ended up being way more upkeep for them than what they wanted. And so they didn't stick with it long term because of that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that went out of style. Plus, obviously it's a meme. Like it's got a reputation on the internet. It's like the Edgar cut and the broccoli cut are like fighting for the worst haircuts on the internet. Although I've seen some good Edgars out there, I'm not gonna knock it. Another thing that I'm seeing sort of fall out of fashion is side parts. Like anything that's very 1940s, 1950s, just anything really too classic. Like it's definitely more 80s, 90s now and less 40s, 50s. And so I still do them on guys who are 50 and just, they look at what their kids are doing and they think they're doing what their kids are doing, but really they're doing what their kids did 5 years ago. I don't do many of those cuts anymore. Very few. I'm not gonna say I never do them. I'm not mad about it either because for a good 10 years there, that was like the only kind of haircut that we were doing. Like everybody just wanted the same look. Next question. What facial hair trends are you seeing? And is there any method to the madness of into matching hairstyles with certain facial hairstyles. So I am not actually a beard expert. I do beards, but kind of just like an add-on that I kind of do on the sides. Like I don't have any clients who come in just for their beard, but it's something I'll do for a client who's getting a haircut. What I've been getting requests for lately with the beards is very similar to what I said about haircuts in general, is that they don't want lines. They don't want, my clients will say like, hey, can you clean up my beard? But I don't want that like painted on like perfect line thing. They want everything to look very organic and natural. And so what I'm finding myself doing more with beards now is fading them so that they can still have the weight around the jawline where they want to sculpt their face. But then rather than having it come to a clean stop like mine is doing and like most beards do, rather than doing that, they're kind of fading it out on the edges. And what this does is a couple things. Like one, it doesn't look like you tried that hard. You still look very casual. You still look like it happened by accident. It doesn't look like you went and got groomed. Like that's kind of what people don't want right now. They don't want to look like they're going and sitting in the salon or sitting in the barber shop. They just want to look like they just happened. But the other thing it does is it grows back really nicely. If you put a clean hard line on something, then in 2 days, it's not a clean hard line anymore. In fact, it looks like what was a clean hard line and now it's got stubble next to it. And so something really pristine like that with a crisp, sharp line requires a lot of upkeep to keep it that way. And I think these days, maybe call it like an economic thing, people don't want to be in the chair as often. So they want me to maintain their beard in a way that if they don't touch it for 3 or 4 weeks, it grows out gradually in a way that you don't notice it growing out. It just takes longer to notice that it's growing back. And that's been a massive request for facial hair lately. And the other one, way surprising to me, I've got a lot of clients who have really scraggly, patchy, thin facial hair and they won't let me touch it. And I'm like, dude, I could just like take that down for you. And they're like, no, I like it. It's cool. It's like almost like Mr. Miyagi status. And I guess it's a thing. I thought at first it was like, oh, this one guy is just weird. He doesn't want me to touch his scraggly little beard. But I've had it happen enough times now to where I'm like, I think kids kind of like looking like that. I don't know if it's a thing, but it might be because it's been coming up a lot lately. And I'm like, please let me just like clean it for you a little. I would say with beards, again, I'm not a super beard expert. It is very similar to a haircut. You know, on your head, everybody has a round head. And what a haircut is meant to do is sculpt that round head to look a little bit more square. That's kind of the classic traditional route. But ultimately, you're trying to emphasize certain bones and certain features and certain structures. There are like angles on the head that we low key kind of are like, oh, that's like an attractive angle there. Like we don't think it actively like that. But there are certain haircuts that'll just build up on the natural curves to emphasize what's happening there. And a beard is no different. Almost across the board, my clients who do wear a beard, they want to have the chin slightly longer than the rest. And so even if it's pretty short like mine is, we're sculpting it. So like mine's a 2 here, tapered into my hair. Out here, I don't use a guard for this. I pick it out and just kind of sculpt it. People don't want to just put a guard on and drive it over their entire beard. They still want it to have shape, but they don't want it to have hard, clean lines. Next question, where do you see men's hair trends going? I'm getting a lot of people who want to see the back from the front. I had a guy actually bring me a picture of Tim Allen's mugshot and he was like dead serious. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm into it. That was like very 1970s. And those kind of looks are really coming in. When a client will tell me like, I want it kind of fuller on the sides and flowing back, I go, okay, so what about in the back? Like, do you want it kind of heavy there? Or do you want it to kind of like real slim and tapered to the head? More often than not, they want it to slim down in the back. They wanted it to have like a bigger shape here and then get slimmer and tighter near the nape. And these days, I'd say like 60% of the time, they're like, yeah, let's leave it heavy. Let's see what happens. I think it looks cool. I think it's refreshing. It's definitely becoming more popular. I'm getting more and more requests for that kind of look. Another thing that's becoming popular is, as I said, the layers on long hair. And it's a very similar vibe to this American Psycho haircut. What I've noticed throughout all of my years is every time there's one popular hairstyle, there's another one that's almost like it, but grown out version of it. And so when everybody was doing like the slick back with the shaved side, if that grows out a little bit, like if you just don't cut the top for a while and you keep shaving the sides, then eventually that's the top knot. Those two things kind of go hand in hand because the slick back grows into the top knot. So similarly, this American Psycho haircut, if you don't cut it for 3 or 4 months, it just turns into long layered hair. And long layered hair, incidentally, is also popular. And so they kind of go hand in hand in that way. So I would say overall where men's hair is going is people are a lot less afraid of their natural texture. I think for a good decade there, I mean, I literally built my career off of teaching dudes how to blow dry their hair straight. And dudes would come in and it didn't matter if their hair was curly or wavy or whatever, they all wanted to leave with like this straight, smooth, slick back hair. But now my clients with wavy hair want to wear it wavy. My clients with curly hair want to wear it curly. And it's very, very refreshing. And what's fun about it is it means that the haircut that's gonna work for you is different from the haircut that's gonna work for the guy with different texture. To where it used to be more like, everybody get this haircut, and if you don't have the right hair type, just perm it or blow dry it out, and then you can have that hair type. I'm getting a lot more people who are like, what works for my hair? What does my hair do? It's really, really fun for me to be able to say this. There's not one haircut that I'm doing all day long here. It's a different haircut for every client. But the overarching theme across almost all of them is they wanna work with their natural texture. They wanna put very little effort into styling, and they wanna get it cut very infrequently They want it to look uncut because they want it to maintain this perpetual state of I didn't get a haircut, because I don't know, maybe it's not cool to look like you try hard. I mean, maybe it's as simple as that. And the final question that I have here says, how are people styling their hair and what products are they using most? What's most popular right now? This week alone comes to mind because I'm just finishing it off today. I've had a lot of clients using sea salt sprays. When you have longer hair, you want to kind of avoid very heavy product. I mean, unless you're going for that like heavy, wet, greasy hair look, but the longer your hair gets, the more your hair needs to move. And if you're putting heavy products in there, it's not going to move very freely. So I get a lot of clients who use sea salt spray, which basically makes the hair feel a little bit sticky, like it kind of sticks to itself, just a tiny bit, just a little itty bit. And the reason that you like that is if you take like an individual hair, like one hair, and you hold it up, it's going to fall down under its own weight. But if you take all your hairs and you go, hey guys, you're all a little tiny bit sticky, and you go like this and rub them together, they stick to each other and the hair will just hold these shapes. And so when you see a video of a guy like running his fingers through his hair and it's like momentarily holding these perfect hairstyles, you kind of get that with something softer and lighter like a sea salt spray. Another thing that kind of came out of nowhere and really got popular recently in my chair is dry shampoo. I'll go back to what I've been saying about low maintenance hair being popular. A lot of guys are finding, you know, it's funny because if you ask your girlfriend or your mom or any woman in your life, like, hey, when does your hair look the best? They tend to know that their hair looks better the second day after they wash it. But guys are like kind of just figuring this out, that when you wash your hair, it looks really fluffy and poofy and it's like kind of big. And so I've had a lot of clients over the years who are like, yeah, after I shampoo my hair, I have to wear a beanie half a day before it looks right. So now what they're figuring out is that they just don't shampoo their hair for a couple days, it starts to look better and better. So there's almost like a life cycle of your style from shampoo to shampoo, where it actually will get better and better as it gets lived in and touched and moved. And as you go out and go running and go to the gym and live your life and do your things, your hair will kind of fall apart naturally and it'll have a very natural look because nature is happening, and it'll look better and better until one day it starts looking worse. And you're like, oh my God, my hair looks filthy. Now for some people, this is 2 days out. For some people, this is 2 weeks out. It's a little bit different for everybody. But what happens when your hair starts to look a little bit grimy and greasy, you grab dry shampoo. Now this is by Evo, it's called Water Killer. I'm not affiliated with them. This is just something we use in my salon. I sell so many of these. So what you do with the dry shampoo is when your hair is looking oily, particularly at the roots, you'll part the hair in different places. So like you'll part it here, you'll take this and spray it on your roots, and it smells so good. So you spray it on your roots all over your head. And so you like spray it here and then you part it there, you spray it here, you part it there. So you just have this dry shampoo. It's like a powder suspended in there. You have it sitting on your scalp, and then you want to let it sit in there for 2 whole minutes. And what it's doing is the powder is absorbing all the oil off your scalp. And after not about exactly 2 minutes, like put a timer on your phone, wait 2 minutes. But after 2 minutes, take cold air with your hair dryer and just shake your hair out and blow dry all the excess product out. If you don't do that, your hair will look chalky. You'll have powder in your hair. Once you blow dry out the excess product, the hair is like renewed. It's like ungreasy. It's like mattified. But I actually use it not even just for the purposes of dirty hair. I use it as a styling product. If I have somebody with longer hair and it keeps falling flat, if I hit the roots with this and I do the routine I just mentioned, it'll actually give it a real good bump at the roots. There's a bonus thing too for those of you who are thinning a little bit like I am. These products, typically a dry shampoo is like a white powder and it'll make your hair look real chalky, but some of them, like this one in particular, comes in a brunette or a dark version. So what this will do is actually match the color of your hair or cover up your scalp if you need it to. I know some guys use hair fibers and powders and things like that, but a lot of my clients are like, whoa, I'm not ready to do that. And I'm like, no, dude, it's just dry shampoo. You're just using dry shampoo. And they're like, oh, okay, I can use dry shampoo. So that one was kind of a sleeper product that I didn't see getting popular. Another one that comes and goes a lot, this product is like, it gets really popular and then people forget, and then it gets really popular and then people forget, is like a styling powder, like a texturizing powder. And the thing about these is they're very different. And so when people see them for the first time, they go, oh, whoa, I never even knew a powder like that could exist. Like picture like Parmesan cheese, like you're eating spaghetti, except you sprinkle it on your hair and it makes the hair feel so gritty and so like rough. It's crazy what it makes the hair feel like. But what I've experienced in my clientele when I've started pushing that before and playing with it is people will get it and then they go overboard with it. It's really easy to use too much. And when you use too much, your hair will actually feel kind of brittle. I don't know that it will actually break the hair, but the feeling of it is like it gets so dry and crunchy feeling that you're like, oh man, and you can't get a comb through it. And essentially, like if you want to get dreads for the day, like put that in your hair and then go like this, you'll have dreads for the day. So styling powders are really interesting and different, and they are quite popular. It's almost across the board. If I use that on a client, they go, whoa, that's different, I want to buy it. But I want to say more often than not, after they use it a couple times, they tend to overuse it and then tend to go, oh, I'm not about that. But you know, if you're careful with it and you use it properly, you should be fine. And I think, yeah, that was my last question. Thank you again, On Point Fresh, for giving me the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate this. Have me back anytime. I'm all yours. If you have any questions, if there's anything I can do for you. Thanks for watching.